Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in our, one of our first webinars of the year. How to do accurate mobile mapping without the high price. With me, I have Daniel Caldwell. Daniel and I have been working on GIS for over a decade. Obviously, my name is Rajiv Raham. I'm the CEO of AmigoCloud. If you're in this webinar, you're probably in our newsletter. And in case you don't know what AmigoCloud is, AmigoCloud is basically a SaaS mapping platform that helps organizations become more efficient and effective with their mapping efforts. What this means is that we have a mobile data collection solution that is very relevant to the people here. And we also have a mapping platform with APIs. In case you already have a pre-existing system and you're trying to add location intelligence to it. With us, we also have Brian Mickle from LHNAB. LHNAB is a turnkey solution provider. You can rent or buy hardware from them, and they basically know a lot about GPS and GNSS receivers, and they've kindly put together a few slides for us with information about accuracy of a whole bunch of hardware devices. We'll talk about those in a bit. Just some housekeeping rules here. In the interface that you see in front of you, you will see a section in there for typing questions. We like to do this very interactively. We don't want it to be just me talking. However, it's a little bit difficult when there's 54 people or 55 now or 60 now on the line listening to this. So the way that we'd like to interact with you guys is just go ahead and type any questions. Daniel is looking at the questions that are coming in as we're doing the webinar, and he is answering them correctly, as we go. If you have any questions, you want to raise your hand, we have a raise your hand button. You can just click on it, and it'll show on my interface, and I know that you may be asking a question or need some clarification. So please feel free to do that. Okay, great. Let's move on. So a little bit to talk about the goals that we have with this webinar. We want to make sure that we cover all these points. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll know what to look for in a mobile mapping solution. We want to do a deep dive of what is it that we consider a good mapping solution versus something that will actually cost you more in the long term. We will be touching on the various different capabilities of smartphones and tablets nowadays. Again, if you have more questions about this, as we're explaining this, please feel free to ask the questions. And after that, we will touch a little bit upon just, what is it out there, what exists out there in terms of external devices. More specifically, because we're talking about smartphone and tablets, that means Bluetooth devices. But now there are a whole bunch of range of external devices that are extending beyond Bluetooth. So we'll only concentrate this time on Bluetooth devices. We will also talk about just, pricing. A very common question that comes into play when people talk to us is, what kind of hardware do I buy? What kind of tablet do I buy? What is the battery life like for a particular model? Do I need to buy a rugged device? So we'll touch upon those topics. We will definitely, because it's an AmigoCloud webinar, we will touch and do a quick AmigoCloud data collection solution at the end. It will not be a deep dive on that. We just want to show you what is it that you can do once you have the right hardware with software SaaS solutions. And at the end of the webinar, we will also cover some questions, any questions that you may have. So it's great. We already start having some questions, and Daniel is answering directly to them. So that's excellent. We have a question here. Will there be a recording? Yes, there will be a recording. So that's a good question. All right. So that we can get a good start here, we want to kind of address the elephant in the room. I know that some of you are using pen and paper, and perhaps this may be the first time that you are looking at a solution that is not that. And some of you might actually be, having a full GIS system, but are still interested into what the current landscape looks like. So let's start with a quick little poll. What you'll see on your screen is just a question asking you whether you're using pen and paper in any of your current mapping workflows. Please, answer. We'll wait for a few seconds while people are answering this question, so that we can get a little bit of an assessment. Okay, answers are coming in. So yes, if you're using pen and paper in any of your mobile mapping workflows, then the answer is yes. Okay. Leave it a couple extra seconds. Perfect. I'm gonna close the poll now and share the results with you. So if we look at the current attendance, we can see that most of you are using pen and paper in your current mapping workflows. Some of you already have some other type of electronic solution. Probably don't know about it. So let's chat a little bit about that. Let me hide the results here and show my screen. So why is it that we're asking this question? There's a few issues there. I mean, a lot of the times when we're starting to do mapping, we may have an external GPS or some other high accuracy unit. We go out on the field, we write down all of our notes in a piece of pen and paper, right? Like, what can be the harm of that? Well, if you actually sit down, if it's only one person, maybe the effect is not that big, because it's only one person that basically has to go and transcribe it back when they go back to the office, write down all the coordinates. But if you're talking about 2 or 3 or more people, I cannot do this exercise for you directly, but I welcome you to try this out. Sit down at one point and just calculate the amount of time that it's taking that one person to transcribe everything. See how much is that they're being paid. How much time is basically being consumed by this, and you realize that quickly that depending on the amount of time that you spend on the field, actually, and the amount of people that are in your field team, this can escalate pretty quickly. But even worse than that is that at the moment that we have a person actually going there and transcribing, all the numbers, transcribing a really long decimal number, you may actually make mistakes with certain digits, and mistakes can range from moving you, a few meters to perhaps even miles wrong, right? And these errors are a little bit difficult to catch. So you end up with bad data. And to top it off, in a lot of our field work, sometimes we need to also take photos that are also geotagged. And then, you end up having to put all these numbers in Excel and then having some other way of managing the photos themselves. It turns into a very tedious and time-consuming and expensive process, right? So obviously, knowing that this is what's happening with pen and paper, a lot of you, I'm sure, have gone out and just looked around about what's available out there for mobile mapping, right? And sort of the reality is that there's several options. You can go to iTunes and do mobile mapping, or you can type it in Google and you'll find tons and tons of options. But it is our point of view that there's a certain set of features, a certain set of properties that a good data solution needs to have. And once you start boiling it down you'll see that even though there's tons and tons of solutions out there, that the reality is that not all of them have these properties. So I would welcome you to think about these things. So let's run about what a good mobile mapping solution would look like. One element that we see a lot that is missing is that a lot of these mobile mapping solutions are not collaborative. And what is exactly that we mean with collaborative? You can easily go to iTunes or the Google Play Store and go and download something that works well for one person, right? That means that if it's for a single person, then it basically means that you need to have another manual process for you to combine the data from multiple people. So this idea of collaborative mapping, basically what it means is that it's a system that enables you to easily invite other people, that has permissions with different levels, that can display and collaborate changes of multiple people. If you end up with a workflow where you have to start drag and dropping files or copying around or have to do some sort of manual sync, to combine the data from multiple people, then that's not a collaborative process. Think about it a little bit kind of like if you do some photo sharing with Facebook or file sharing with Dropbox, how all that collaborative nature is actually enabled through cloud services, right? So the same is true for collaborative mobile mapping, right? You need to have some way to combine these things. Another aspect that we believe is important is a good mobile mapping solution needs to enable to easily import data, right? So again, you can go out and you can have a whole bunch of solutions that enable you to point to a single file, and then maybe they ask you to use these other converters to convert it into some other type of file, and then you need to move it to Excel, and then you need to move it to this other thing. But why is it that you can't just point to a file, import it? It doesn't matter if it's in different projections. It doesn't matter if it's in different formats. Just being able to easily import that. And the other side of that is also having a system that doesn't lock you in to a particular vendor format, right? Like if I go and have all my data in the system and I want to be able to take it out and I want to be able to use it in something else. For example, if I'm using ArcGIS, if I'm using QGIS, if I'm using UDIC, any of this open source or proprietary, GIS mapping solutions, being able to basically, move data around without having to use all these complicated converters, right? Additionally, for all of you that work out on the field or that have field crews, we believe that sometimes offline functionality is understated. People, when they're creating initial versions, they always assume that the online connectivity is going to be there for anybody that has hiked out in the mountains or that has worked in a rural area or even somewhere in downtown San Francisco can easily realize that connectivity is not always a given. So you need to be able to have a system that can easily switch between online or offline mode. And we're getting a few questions here. Turn the navigator. Perfect. Okay. I think Daniel is answering a lot of these. Excellent. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Another thing that we are seeing a lot is that, and this is usually more with the bigger organizations, is that they already have some system in place. It might be a ticketing system. It might be a dashboarding system. It may be some CAD system, something else, right? And a lot of the times, what you want to have is something that easily goes and integrates with that. And what this really means is Do you have APIs to enable me to pull the data out, to push the data in, sort of the advanced use cases, right? But we believe, a good mobile mapping solution needs to be able to enable those sort of integrations, right? Something that you go and download from the iTunes store that is made for a single user most definitely doesn't do that. And the other part is important is you need to be able to have a place where you can actually just ask a question, right? Good software is intuitive, but the reality is that we also live in the real world. And a lot of the times, people have questions. So you need to be able to have, once you have a good mobile mapping solution, you need to be able to have some way where you can ask a question, get a response, and just get support in general, right? That is not true with sadly, it's not true with a lot of solutions out there, and that's something that at least we do a lot of work ourselves to do that. So if you've ever spent 15, 20, 30, I don't know how many hours in customer support with another vendor, then probably you may want to think about what are your options out there. Now, out of personal curiosity, before we jump into the hardware portion of this, I'd like to do another poll. Just are you guys currently using any sort of data collection solution that has all of the properties that I mentioned there? And if so, are you happy with them? Just gonna launch a quick poll to see the answer for that is. Ooh, it's divided. This is getting very interesting. Perfect. So let's see a couple more seconds. And 70% have voted. Perfect. I'm sharing the results. So okay, so a lot of you are either not using a solution or using a solution that has one of these properties missing. 23% of you guys are very happy with what you're using, and that's excellent to hear. And 12% of you seems to have a solution that do have all these properties, but you're not happy with them. So that's very interesting to think about why that is. I would love to understand that part. Okay, hide the results, and let's talk a little bit about hardware here. Let's see. So what I want to chat about a little bit is something that comes up in certain conferences, right? What's funny is the irony is that a lot of the times people go and when they're thinking about mobile mapping, they think that they need to spend, I don't know, X amount of money in some sort of, Trimble unit using ArcPath or something along those lines. And what is funny to me is that, what I ask them directly once they ask me, are you supporting Windows mobile, some old version of Windows mobile phones? And you ask people, what is it that you have in your pocket? The answer is pretty simple, right? Like most of us have either some smartphone or some Android tablet at home or some iPad or, whatever smartphone, contemporary smartphone device. And those units are absolutely powerful, right? Like they can do tons of things, tons more than a 5-year-old Windows mobile device could do. They can, they have storage, they have Wi-Fi connectivity, they can have 3D rendering techniques. A lot of math can be done in those devices. And so the question then becomes, why is it that we're stuck thinking that in order to do serious mapping, we need to start using one of these older 1995 type of units instead of using something similar to the devices that we have in our pocket, the things that we're using to play Pokemon Go or something along those lines. So one thing is the devices that we use on an everyday basis are very, very powerful, right? The other fact is that they're also going down in price. It is really easy to go out. I pulled this last night actually from one from the Amazon store. This is a very popular tablet, Android tablet that a lot of our customers are using. It costs $169. You can actually find them for a lot less in other places, and it has all the things that you need for running software to do data collection, right? So why would I spend a lot more money in something else? It really depends on the requirements that you have, right? Like for some people, a tablet like this paired with some of the devices that we're going to talk about shortly is enough to run some Android application that does the data collection, that does it has a camera. But for other people, they may want something a little bit more rugged. They may want something that that they can withstand being dropped, and it's questionable, right? Like if a device costs $169 and you break it, in theory you can just go and buy another $169 device, and if it's cloud synced, all your data just gets added back there, right? Or if you're actually looking for something a little bit more rugged, like this is one of the other vendors that are out here in the Bay Area, and then there's many more, but it's a rugged device, right? You can grab these things, you can drop them on the ground, they can fall, you could throw water on them. They have they're very durable, right? But at the core, it's basically another Android device. The point being that if you need a non-rugged Android device, you can get one really cheap. If you want it to be rugged and be able to drop it, you can get one a little bit more expensive. But the options right now exist out there. Okay, we're getting a few questions here. Good comments. Perfect. Okay. Daniel taking over some of the answers. Excellent. Okay. Moving on. So what is it that it takes? So if you have an Android device or an iPhone or whatever that is, a contemporary smartphone, and you combine that with some external Bluetooth connectivity, then that's really where the things start to shine. So I try to think of this a little bit kind of like cameras for those of you that are like to take photos as a hobby, right? Like you buy an initial camera that may cost you, I don't know, $300, $400, $500. And then from then on, it doesn't come with all the different lenses, right? Like you basically, depending on the situation that you're in, you can go and buy a different lens. And there's lenses for, taking photos, something that is close by, something that is very far away, in different price ranges. The same is true for mobile devices. You can get a tablet that is relatively inexpensive and pair it with an external Bluetooth that actually gives you that extra functionality depending on the accuracy or other requirements that you have. So this is a table that Brian from LHNav put together. Some of the units that they have, it's very interesting. You can see a different models from different manufacturers with different battery lifetime profiles, different weights, different accuracies for sure. So if you're trying to use something that gives you between 3 to 4 meters, you can always go to Amazon and buy a Garmin Glow, pair it with that other Android tablet that we talked about. The Garmin Glow is $129, GNSS receiver. And one thing that I wanted to mention is a lot of the times we say GNSS, GPS, we have all these models because there's different constellations of satellites that give you position. Most of the newer devices will do multiple constellations. And in this case, that also affects the price, right? If you want to hook onto the constellations of, besides the US GPS constellation, you may want to hook up to the ones in Europe or China or whatever, right? And that's basically what justifies, it's one of the elements that justify the different pricings, the weight, and all these things. The point being here is that we end up with various options out there. Various options at different prices. Here we have Brian going out and showing some of the Aero units and some of the Trimble units and paired with with different configurations. I think that's the Aero 200 that will give you something in the centimeter range, right? They're so lightweight, you can put them on a pocket. Sometimes some people like to put it on poles. You may want to also, integrate with some sort of laser rangefinder. So there's different units. I think here Brian is doing a test of accuracy with some of the devices in their office in San Diego, and he's getting 90 centimeter accuracy with some of the bolts and stuff. That's the Aero 100. And again, once we're talking about various different external devices, that's where it gets interesting, right? Because we're not just talking about an external GNSS or GPS receiver. At that point, we're also talking about perhaps RFID tags. This is a product from one of our partners, Bernsen International, that does InfraMarker. And basically what they have is RFID tags that you can put into various field assets. And what that enables you to do when paired with a smartphone is be able to pull out or create an inventory of things that are tagged with RFID, which could be underground, which could be overground. So now you're talking about using that external Bluetooth feature to be able to pull underground data or tag things easier. So let's see, we have some questions here. Let's see. Oh, great. Good comments. Right. So that's some of the that's some of the features that we have with that. And I guess what we're gonna do is do just a quick demo of what is it that you can do once you paired one of these hardware solutions with a software like AmigoCloud or something similar. Obviously, this is an AmigoCloud webinar, so we're definitely gonna center on that. But we welcome you to try various different solutions out there, so you find one that you like and you think is the best. Our concentration again is to be able to provide you with ways to streamlining workflows that you have by leveraging the mobile devices that you already have, right? So let's see if we're gonna do some demos of this. I'm gonna switch screens here for a second. Daniel, I don't know if you have different questions there. Everything is okay?
Yeah, if somebody has any questions, see if you can right-click on the question and assign it to me. I'm not seeing the questions coming through. I do know there was a question about Terrain Navigator, And if you'd like to assign me that question, we can go over that a little bit. Terrain Navigators, similar to AmigoCloud, they have their own desktop application where we focus on being able to integrate with industry-wide desktop applications rather than writing our own. And most of the functionality you can do with AmigoCloud you do on the web, as Raji is about to show you here. So if you have any questions about that, just right-click. It says you can right-click and assign it to me, and then I should be able to see the question.
Perfect. Okay, so we have my screen over here. Apologies if there's a little bit of a delay, just because we will, do some screen sharing. Sometimes when there's too many people in a webinar, there's a little bit of delays with this, but let's see how this goes. Perfect. Okay. Right. Okay, so say that you went ahead and you went out, you bought. Let's call it the minimum requirements, right? Like one of these tablets that cost $160, like the one that I showed on Amazon, so one of the Samsung Galaxy tabs that has 16 gig of RAM. That's usually what I think works best with most of the solutions. So not too old. Don't get the $49 one, but you also don't need to get the $300 one unless it has some properties, with ruggedness or something like that you're looking for. And you can come in, go to Google Play Store, App Store, iTunes Store, and download the AmigoCloud app, right? You can come in, create basically an account and try it out for free. Happy to help with that. And again, I want to go back and touch a little bit about this different options and different properties that I talked about. So one of them is I was talking about the property of being collaborative, right? You want a system where it's easy to go and create a project where you can share with different people without having to call sales, without having to call customer support and get something, perhaps it might be very complicated to add another user to your organization. You just want to make this very simple. And here what I have is multiple projects from different people that are being shared with me. So we also have this concept of collaboration, of mapping, collaborative mapping, right? So what I've done here is I created users, again, harping on the collaboration, being able to invite one person with different permissions here, editor, reader, creator permissions, and just by doing a few clicks, being able to go and have them included in this project where we're going to do some data collection collaboratively, right? I just went and clicked invite, created, send an invitation, he'll get an email, he'll accept it, and immediately he gets to see the same data that I get to see. Now, there's multiple things that I can do. Let's talk about, say that I'm going to go out on the field and I'm going to be collecting information about light poles. It could also be information about some sort of species that I'm collecting, or perhaps I'm going out there and collecting information about frogs, wildlife delineation, some sort of asset in the park, trees. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's about going out and collecting that, right? So I'm going to just be collecting street signs. This could very well be something else. And here, what I'm going to do is define what is it that I want to collect. So one thing is I might be able to collect some description about the light pole of the street sign. I may want to go and say, hey, I want to know, because this is collaborative, who is the person that is collecting this information, and I want that email of the person that collected that to be automatically captured. Again, we're trying to generate things that do automatic capturing. Another thing that I may want to do is I want to say, hey, I want to know when this record got collected, but I don't want it to be automatically captured, right? Set the date and the time whenever this record was collected just automatically. I may want to take a photo, a geotagged photo of the location of whatever this asset is that is attached directly to the record. So I create a gallery field type and saying I'm collecting photos. I'm also collecting the geometry of the location of this object. For those of you that work with shapefiles or file GDBs or one of those other geospatial types, you'll know that you can collect lines and points and polygons. Right now for this example we're just going to do points, but you want a system that can do the full range of GIS types. And perhaps I want to automatically also capture data from either a barcode related to something else or from the GPS. I may want to know automatically what's the accuracy of the reading that I'm getting. It could be horizontal accuracy, vertical accuracy, number of satellites, whatever it is. Depending on the hardware that you are integrating with, the options are going to be different, right? We also have this interesting RFID type for things that are, like the RFID scanners that I showed before. And if you have laser range finders or something else, then you would have different field types. I click on Save Changes, and then that's it. Basically, Daniel and I have basically a project where we can go out here in a mobile device. I'll move this over here and show you start the AmigoCloud application. And basically what this does is go out to the cloud. It gets the list of all the same projects that I have permissions to look at, that I'm collaborating with other people with. I can go and I can click on the project that I just created. The data gets automatically synchronized into the mobile device so that it's available offline. Again, what we want to avoid is having this thing where like the process of getting data into the mobile device becomes really complicated. We just want it to be, I click, I log in, and that's it, right? Information about my GPS, gets shown in here. If I do have an external GPS, right now I'm indoors, so what I'm looking at is, as you may or may not know, when you're indoors, the accuracy is not that great. You want to be outside to get something better. So here I'm getting about 30 meters in San Francisco right now. And so basically I want to be able to go and to switch between different layer types. I want to be able to add as many layers as I want. And I'm going to collect a record and show you just how easy this is, right? I hit the plus button. I hit the thing that I'm trying to collect. It tells me to add the point. I can hit the plus sign and it snaps it to my current GPS location. I hit OK. It tells me the fields that I just created get automatically populated. I don't need to type anything. The date, like I said, gets automatically populated. Who collected the data gets automatically populated. If I'm working with a team, this is actually very useful. The accuracy of my reading gets automatically populated. If I had been paired with an external GPS device over Bluetooth, I would start getting centimeter accuracy out of this, right? It says take a photo. So we're gonna go ahead and take a photo of my screen. Use the photo and just hit the save button. And that's really all there is to it, right? Like Daniel will be able to see that data automatically. I get to see the data automatically. In my web dashboard, if somebody's sitting in the office and looking at the data, the data is just gonna magic. If they have an internet connection, the data is just magically going to start appearing. If they don't have an internet connection, the data is available offline. And once they come in, then all the data gets automatically synchronized. So that manual process where you have to go with multiple people and transcribe and all that, that's gone, right? Here I have the data about the records. I can look at the photo that I just collected. I can apply various different mapping, advanced styling options. I'm not going to go over any of those things right now. But again, the other property that we talked about is being able to get the data out automatically, right? So if I went and I said, hey, I want a shapefile, a file geodatabase, I want maybe just a KML or an Excel file out of it. I just click on the button, I click export, and that's it. Basically, I just generated a KML. I don't know which applications you guys normally use um, for looking at KML files. In our case, I like to use Google Earth or something like QGIS. But the point being is that I just did a couple of clicks and I can see the data that I just collected automatically in Google Earth, right? With all the records that I just populated. And of course, if you have it's sort of an advanced GIS solution, we also have plugins for Oracle, putting the data back in Oracle Spatial and QGIS and ArcGIS, getting file GDBs and all that good stuff. If I'm just doing managing a smaller team that is out on the field, then this is perfect because they can go and just basically collect all the data with a very simple interface. If I go and say that my accuracy requirements have changed, then something beautiful is that I can always go and change the external receiver that I've just bought and switch from something that gave me 3 meters to, let's say, 30 centimeters, 60 centimeters. There's no retraining, right? It's like the Android application is the same, the iPhone application is the same, the experience is the same. It's just the accuracy of what you're getting is different, right? It's kind of like buying that super advanced lens for your camera. And that's all I wanted to show so far. I don't know if there are.
Hey, Reggie, I have a few questions here that I have answers for.
Please go ahead.
You want to go over? One person asked, how much does AmigoCloud cost? We have various levels of from like office to professional to enterprise. We also do monthly and yearly, and all that pricing is on our website at AmigoCloud.com, so you can access it there and go through all the features that you need. Another person asked if we can read RFID tags, and we can read RFID tags. We're partnering with Bernstein, who has RFID readers, and they're a great company that works on creating basically like the metal medallions you see out there for USGS and other trails and stuff. They're integrating RFIDs into that so people can do pipeline management and asset tracking with RFIDs. If you, in the example that the person gave here, was tracking the movements of coyotes with RFID tags in their ears as they pass a stationary point. You can do that kind of thing with AmigoCloud. However, you would have to access it with our API. We have a completely open REST API, and anything the phone can do or the website can do can be done through that API. So it's relatively simple to write a script that, when it receives the RFID information, would be able to upload that information to the cloud directly, and then you would just see it appear as the data comes in. Another person asked if child forms can be created within the main form, like a one-to-many relationship, and we have several different ways you can do that. First, we would use a related data set, so you would have your primary data set, for example, like all the houses in the city or all of the pipes on the street, and then you would have your visits data set that's related to that with a one-to-many relationship, where every time you go to an inspection, you're making an inspection report. So you have your pipelines and your inspections, or you have, we see people do this with wildlife testing, where they create an area polygon and they go out to that area and then they check and do a count of whatever they're looking for, whether it's turtles or it's birds or different bird types or whatever they're looking at, and then every year they go and make another visit, and so that's another one-to-many relationship example. And one person missed where you were creating the geometry. So if you could show creating a one more record or something so they could see that, that would be good.
Excellent. New laser attachments. Okay, so there's a few questions. Well, how well do the external devices work in forest canopies? Well, that's actually a very good question and also a very complex question to answer. What I would say is I'll forward this to Brian at LHNav, and he can basically go over the details of that. The reality is that a lot of these technologies are line of sight. However, you can also increase accuracy by using RTK corrections with local RTK antennas that you set up. In some cases, you can go and use just public RTK stations. That works well. But a lot of the times, if the canopy is really bad, then you may need to use some local RTK antennas that you set up. I'll definitely forward this to Brian so he can answer this a little bit further. Another question that you have here. Well, okay, I think this is what we have here. We're going to reach out to some of you directly. But what would really definitely appreciate is if you could just answer the survey at the end of this webinar, just because this is something that we can use to reevaluate or adjust the content of our webinars to make sure that is relevant to you guys. So definitely appreciate if you could answer those. It only takes like a minute and it is extremely valuable to us. Otherwise, thank you for attending. We definitely appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, just do not hesitate on emailing me or Daniel. And if this is a question about some of the external receivers, we'll be happy to forward that to Brian, who has lots of knowledge in this area. Okay, well, thank you again, and we'll see you guys soon.